Alright, now I'm going to tell you such a story that there's an archipelago in the middle of the South Atlantic that you can barely see on a world map, where the wind blows like crazy, freezing cold. A place that under normal circumstances nobody would even care about. But because of these islands, empires clashed, war broke out, hundreds of people died. Funny, tragic, both. The Falkland Islands. Or if you ask Argentina, Las Malvinas. Two names, two countries, a whole lot of drama. Ready? Because this story starts in the 16th century and stretches all the way to a modern war. Grab your coffee, sit somewhere comfortable. Let's begin. The year 1592. British sailor John Davis is cruising the ocean, looking for new places. He's probably the first European to see these islands, but nobody really paid attention. It went by in, interesting, whatever. Moving on mode. The one who actually recorded it was a British captain named John Strong in 1690. The guy landed on the island, looked around, and you know what he saw. Nothing. I mean literally nothing. No trees, no people at all. Just rocks, cold, wind, fog, and tons of penguins. There are seals too, birds too, but it's not exactly livable, you know. Strong thought, well, let me claim this for Britain. He named the islands Falkland after the Navy minister's title. Well done, John. Great job. But wait, was the story going to stay this simple? Of course not. The French came. 1764, a group of French settlers led by Louis-Antoine de Bougainville established Port Louis. This is ours, they said. And now the funniest part, the two groups were unaware of each other. The islands were so big and desolate that they lived side by side for a while. Are you neighbors? What neighbor, man? There's nobody else here, they were saying, when there were others on the other end of the island. Tragicomic. Then the Spanish got involved, and their argument was very good. From their perspective, look friends, in 1494 the Pope drew a line. Treaty of Tordesillas. This side of the line is ours. Sorry, but fuck off. They got along well with the French. Spain paid the French, and the French said, okay, it's yours, but watch out. There are Brits on the other side of the island, and left. Spain told the British the same story. The British of course didn't accept, but in 1770 Spain had way more ships, way more soldiers. They expelled the British by force. Hell broke loose in London. What do you mean? War threats, diplomatic crisis, total chaos. Spain asked France for help. The French war minister excitedly shouted, yes, let's invade Britain. Like 1066. French King Louis XV was calm. Calm down, dude. You're crazy. You're fired. We're not ready. Sit down. Finally, through diplomatic pressure, Spain backed down and returned the settlements to the British. But both sides continued to say, the island is ours. In 1774 the British withdrew. Why? A rebellion had broken out in the American colonies. Those matters were more important. But on their way out they left a plaque. This island is still Britain's. Metal plaque. On the rock. Right in the middle. The Spanish looked at it, said, PFF, how ridiculous, but stayed anyway. At the beginning of the 19th century, Napoleon invaded Spain. Spain was in chaos. Latin American colonies said, well, now's the time, and declared independence. Argentina became independent in 1816 and said, we are Spain's legal heir. The lands that were theirs are now ours. Malvinas is ours too. Is it logical? Legally debatable, but hey, nobody cared anyway, because the islands were empty. The Spanish had left. There were only wild cattle, a few fishermen, and gauchos, Spanish cowboys. In the 1820s, a Hamburg merchant named Luis Fernet thought, there's money here. He was going to profit from wild cattle. He got permission from both Buenos Aires and Britain. Yes, from both sides. Smart guy. But then American ships came and started hunting seals and whales. Vernet said, stop, and seized the American ships. The US got very angry. It sent a warship and destroyed Vernet's settlement. Buenos Aires, however, declared Vernet the governor of the island. This meant an official claim. When the British heard this, what's going on, man? In 1833 they came with a powerful navy and expelled the Argentinians. And since that day, for nearly 200 years, the Falkland Islands have been under British control. In 1840 the Falklands officially became a British colony. Port Stanley the capital. People settled. First they tried the cattle hide business, but it didn't catch on. In 1851 they brought sheep. Wool was much more profitable. World War I came. There was a small naval battle in the Falklands. 1914, Battle of the Falklands. World War II came and went. The islands generally remained calm, but Argentina never shut up. On every platform it said, Malvinas is ours. At the UN, at diplomatic meetings, everywhere. In the 1960s and 70s the UN said, come on guys, sit down and talk. Britain cooperated on some issues. Flights from Argentina started, for example, but on sovereignty, no, Argentina, but Britain, and no. In 1976 there was a military coup in Argentina. A US-backed, anti-communist regime came to power. Cold War era, you know, but this regime was very bad. Thousands of people disappeared. Torture became widespread. It was a terrible period. In 1981 General Leopoldo Galtieri became president. The economy had collapsed. Inflation had hit the ceiling. Unemployment everywhere. The people angry. Galtieri's popularity had also hit rock bottom. We know from history. What do dictators in trouble do? They start a war to distract the people, and Galtieri did exactly that. Let's take back Malvinas. National pride. Patriotism. Also, the British were cutting the defense budget. The ice patrol ship HMS Endurance in the region had been withdrawn. Maybe the British wouldn't fight for an island this far away. In March 1982, Argentina first took South Georgia Island. It was like a test. The British didn't react. Maybe they really don't care, thought Galtieri. April 2, 1982, 600 Argentine soldiers landed on the Falkland Islands. There were only about 80 British Marines on the island. They showed resistance but couldn't withstand a numerically superior force. They surrendered. Celebrations began in Buenos Aires. The people poured into the streets. Galtieri was a hero. But he hadn't taken one thing into account. Margaret Thatcher. Iron Lady. The Iron Lady. There were those who loved this woman and those who hated her. But everyone agreed on one thing. This woman does not back down. You know what Thatcher's reaction was when the news came. She set up a war cabinet in one day. She went to the UN, got a resolution condemning Argentina, and most importantly, she prepared a task force, more than 100 ships, warships, submarines, aircraft carriers. But it wasn't enough. The Falklands were 13,000 kilometers away. Civilian ships were requisitioned. Passenger ships, cargo ships, luxury cruisers, all were converted to military ships. On the diplomatic side, UN, Argentina did wrong, but let there be no war either. Latin America, Argentina is right, except Chile. US, we supported Galtieri, but Britain is our NATO ally. Tough spot. President Reagan asked Thatcher, maybe you could let them have the islands. Thatcher's answer, Ron, are you serious? No. Reagan, okay, here are the weapons. In early May, the British task force reached the Falklands. Argentina had stationed 10,000 soldiers on the islands. British plan: 1. Control the sea. 2. Control the air. 3. Land. May 2nd, British submarine HMS Conqueror torpedoed Argentine cruiser General Belgrano. The ship sank. 323 Argentine sailors died. This was controversial because Belgrano was outside the British exclusion zone, but Britain said it posed a threat. Then the Argentine Navy never approached the island again. The sea was under British control, but the air war was different. May 4th, Argentine Super-Attended aircraft came and fired an Exocet missile at HMS Sheffield. The ship sank. 20 British died. This was a shock for the British. Modern weapons were dangerous. In the following weeks, Argentine aircraft constantly attacked. British Sea Harrier jets were stopping them, but casualties were increasing. May 21st, landing at San Carlos Bay. While British troops set foot on land, Argentine aircraft attacked non-stop. Several British ships sank, but anti-aircraft guns and Harriers shot down dozens of Argentine aircraft. British forces split into two directions. Target: Port Stanley. Night of May 28 to 29, Battle of Goose Green. It lasted 14 hours. The British Parachute Regiment clashed with a numerically larger Argentine force. British commander Colonel H. Jones died, but ultimately the British won. More than 900 Argentinians surrendered. Reinforcements were coming. 5,000 additional soldiers. Final target: Port Stanley and the hills around it. Mount Longdon. Two Sisters. Mount Harriet. Tumbledown Mountain. Wireless Ridge. June 11th to 14th, there were fierce clashes for each of these hills. Night attacks. Close-range clashes. Artillery fire. British ships bombarded Argentine positions from the shore. Argentine forces retreated. They were surrounded. Their morale broke. June 14th, 1982, Argentine Commander General Menendez surrendered. In 74 days, 649 Argentinians died. 255 British died. Thousands of people were wounded. The islands filled with minefields. Even today dangerous. For Argentina, defeat brought the end of the dictatorship. Galtieri resigned. Democratic elections were held in 1983. So is it a good thing in a way? Complicated. For Britain, victory made Thatcher popular. She won the 1983 elections. But is the story over? No. Argentina still says, Malvinas is ours. They repeat it every year at the UN. In 2013, a referendum was held on the islands. Do you want to remain as a British colony? Result: 99.8% yes. Only 3 people said no. I wonder who these 3 people are. And one more detail: in recent years, large oil reserves have been found around the Falklands. Now let's go back to the beginning. Falkland Islands. A cold, windy, foggy, almost deserted place. And hundreds of people died for this place. Why? Colonial legacy, national pride, identity. Dictators taking refuge in foreign policy when they lose in domestic policy. And maybe now oil. History repeats itself, they say. Falkland is exactly that, because even today 2 countries continue the same claim. And the penguins, they're still there, in the cold, wondering why people are making so much noise. Are they fighting for us? We're already here. Leave us alone. That's it, folks. The Falkland Islands story. Absurd, tragic, comical, and true. Next time someone asks you, why do wars happen? You can say, sometimes because of penguins. Technically wrong but spiritually right.